All right. Give it a minute further, just another minute or so, and then we'll begin. So Jill, you heard this with the vestry presentation, but you're going to hear it again. Yeah, it's the same presentation, but you can definitely listen to it again. There's a lot of content. All right, well, we'll go ahead and start. It's being recorded. People can jump on if they miss something they want. They can come back and look at it later, but let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Glad to have you here for this presentation. I've talked about the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn quite a bit over the last year or so, particularly as we formed the task force and the task force started to get involved and with lots of other members of the community. And I'm really happy and honored and privileged to be able to present to you with a team of people the Trinity Wall Street grant. It's a 3-year grant for $260,000 to help us launch the ICCD, the Intercultural Community Center, in a more intentional way. And so here with me today from the facilitation team, I have Jim Gettle. He serves as our consultant, and Karen Beck, who is a team member, and Chris Burkhalter, who is the vestry representative. And so we also have on the facilitation team Aaron Biggs, who's the office manager at Christ Church, and Halim Shukir also. He's at VTS, as you know, working on his DMin right now, so he's not able to be with us tonight, but he's also on the facilitation team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen. I'm going to screen share, and Karen's going to start. So this is our logo.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of the Intercultural Community Center. So just over a year ago, in June of 2021, Christ Church's vestry authorized the formation of a task force to develop the vision and goals of an intercultural community center. The task force began by inviting representatives from every group that used Christ Church's building. With the groups that chose to participate, we entered into conversation, discerning together a sense of common mission and goals. As members of the task force invited others from throughout Dearborn and nearby communities to participate, this group gradually expanded to include about 24 individuals in groups and has become an informal community board guided by the task force facilitation team. We've had monthly meetings that have been well attended with lively conversations, and this community board has organized some work groups and helped sponsor some events focused on particular community needs and projects. These partnerships are an excellent way for a smaller congregation such as Christ Church or Mother of the Savior to effectively reach out, connect with, and share education and service in larger, diverse communities. The Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is modeling these strategies, and Christ Church and Mother of the Savior are developing significant visibility and new relationships in Dearborn through the Intercultural Community Center. So during these past 12 months, a larger mission has been discerned and has taken hold. The mission of the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is to gather individuals and groups from diverse cultural backgrounds to cultivate strong relationships, to share and learn from one another, and work and lead together in education and service projects for the wider community. Intercultural describes communities in which there is a deep understanding and respect for all cultures. Within these communities, intercultural communication focuses on the development of deep relationships and the mutual exchange of ideas and cultural norms. Using the term intercultural is intentional. We are multicultural and interpersonal. We are also intergenerational, interracial, and interfaith. The Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn strives to create a context of intercultural awareness, appreciation, and hospitality that is rare today. Intercultural intercultural partnerships become unexpected places that are caring and non-judgmental, where we exhibit respect and hospitality toward differences in others and encourage people to be themselves and do not seek to remake them. When this happens, an intercultural community becomes more engaging and has opportunities to welcome and find room for even more diverse participants. In the Intercultural Community Center of Dearborn, some relationships will grow through collegiality, shared values, and collaboration and mission. And other relationships will deepen with increased awareness, knowledge, acceptance, and appreciation of differences in others. In an intercultural community, no one is left unchanged because everyone learns from one another and all grow together. People who become involved with the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn have said, "This is what I've been looking for." They share longing to work together and aspirations to be transformative.
So I will talk a little bit about the demographic context and why Dearborn is a great setting that gives us a unique opportunity to create these intercultural partnerships. So I'll throw some numbers at you. With a population of about 110,000 people, Dearborn is in the Detroit metro area, which is home to 4.3 million. It's the second largest metro area in the Midwest. And it's, of course, ethnically, religiously, and economically diverse. 42% of Dearborn is ethnic Arab, and the largest population of Arab Americans in the US. The city, of course, just elected its first Arab American mayor, and Arab Americans own shops and businesses. And there's a great mix of English and Arabic here in Dearborn. Arab American adults have levels of education, employment, and median household income here in Dearborn that is similar to that of Americans at large. Although most Arab Americans in the United States are Christian, 88% in Dearborn are Muslim. That's about 37% of the population. And the Muslim community here built the Islamic Center of America, which is the largest mosque in North America, and the Dearborn Mosque of the American Muslim Society. And then non-Arab populations in Dearborn are European, about 47%, Black, about 3%, Hispanic, 3%, Asian, 2%, and mixed, 3%. Households here had a median annual income of $53,000, almost $54,000, which is under the US median of $65,000, and 28% lived below the poverty level.
Jim, you're muted.
Thank you, Terry. Last December, as Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn was beginning to grow, we approached Trinity Wall Street Philanthropies about potentially funding the ICCD. Trinity Wall Street's vestry awarded this grant because of the unique context, experiences, and skills of Christ Church and Mother the Savior, and because they feel that what we're learning and developing here can be replicated by churches and nonprofits in other urban intercultural contexts. 4 characteristics of this project strongly influenced Trinity's Grant Award. First, they saw Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn's mission, which Karen has shared, as an excellent way for smaller congregations such as Christ Church and Mother the Savior to effectively reach out, connect with, and share education and service in larger diverse communities. Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is already modeling these strategies, and Christ Church and Mother the Savior are developing new visibility and relationships in Dearborn through the ICCD. Trinity's grant recognizes intercultural community as a way for congregations and nonprofits to discover and develop community relationships, engagement, resources, and leadership, even in times of scarcity and division. Second, Trinity saw the diverse demographics of Dearborn which Chris has shared as an excellent context for broadly creating intercultural partnerships and further developing this model. Third, Trinity was interested in supporting this grant because the intentional commitments to develop intercultural partnerships by Christ Church and Mother of the Savior, which are unusual and represent a new way to engage with one another and the larger surrounding community. This goes back to the history of Christ Church participating in interfaith, social outreach, and anti-racism activities for decades. Also to the Liberian School Project with Good Shepherd Church beginning in 2013, and particularly to the multi-ethnic partnership and faith between Christ Church and Mother of the Savior beginning in 2019. Each of these experiences and related training and work together has contributed to learning about developing intercultural partnerships. And a fourth reason Trinity has made this grant is that the structure of Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is presently overseen by Christ Church's vestry. The present leadership structure of Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is shown in this structural slide. Trinity feels comfortable that Christ Church and Mother of the Savior will manage and be good stewards of this significant grant. Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn is operating under Christ Church's corporate and nonprofit status, and Christ Church is managing the funds and the accounting. Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn uses an informal governance structure. It seeks to involve various groups and create partnerships to share leadership roles. ICCD identifies projects through the community board and further develops them through its work groups or teams, some of which are shown in this chart. The structure is flexible, and our goal is for ICCD to become a 501c3 nonprofit over the 3-year grant, sometime toward the end of the 3-year grant period, with so that it can operate and support the continuing development of ICCD.
And I'll talk some more numbers here, go into the funding and support that this grant provides. So Trinity's grant enables the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn to deeply develop this model and create and share impactful resources and training for clergy and lay leaders interested in faith and leadership formation for building and leading intercultural communities. It's a 3-year project, which will enable the ICCD to successfully develop into a sustainable, independent community association and to create helpful resources to share with other church and community leaders about practical strategies and skills for leadership and development of intercultural communities in their own contexts. So I'll try to break down what these dollar amounts are. The grant, and there's the slide here, the grant provides funding for 5 areas during the first year and subsequent years. 1, up to $47,000 for a new bilingual website, media, publicity, and marketing videos in English and Arabic for the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn. This will help to share the ICCD story, purposes, and culture, help to create new connections and support local community work, including resources and events pages for the wider community. So this funding will continue at $4,000 in each of years 2 and 3 of the grant. And then number 2, up to $15,000 for a part-time communications coordinator who is bilingual in Arabic and English. The communications coordinator will manage communications through the new website and develop communications for the ICCD projects, educational forums, meetings, activities, and events. And this funding will continue at $20,000 in each of years 2 and 3 of the grant. The first year, I don't know, maybe it's because it's a partial year, I think. 3, up to $6,000 for a part-time executive director. Terry Pilarski is expected to serve as part-time manager for the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn activities, program and fundraising development during the next couple of years. So this funding will go up to $15,000 in years 2 and 3 of the grant. For up to $12,000 per year for a part-time development consultant to provide strategy consulting for the continuing growth and funding of the ICCD. Presently, Jim Gettle serves as this consultant. And then 5, up to $20,000 per year to create and share impactful resources and training for clergy and lay leaders interested in faith and leadership formation for building and leading intercultural communities. This is the largest component of the grant and covers professional fees for developing, that's writing, editing, translating, producing videos and outlines, training, and a library of in-person digital training materials for Christian leaders in intercultural communities. Beginning in 2024, the grant also provides for a part-time shared building manager who will work to maintain the building for all the groups using it. All new staff will report to the executive director. The Trinity grant is intended to cover the operating expenses of the ICCD from June 2022 through May 2025, except Christ Church and Mother of the Savior are making in-kind contributions that are not included in the monetary budget, which includes the work of clergy leaders, service of its office administrator, CPA bookkeeper and sexton, and spaces that are free to use for the Intercultural Community Center, such as the fellowship hall, the classrooms, things like that. Christ Church will offer facilities use and volunteers beyond the terms of the grant, or beyond the term of the grant, I should say. And then also costs of specific education and service projects, estimated to be $25,000 per year, will be raised by ICCD through ICCD partners, work groups, or fundraising in the Dearborn community. This development of project funding is intended to be the first step in developing a donor base to support the Intercultural Community Center in future years and creating a sustainable ICCD project and operating budget funding.
So the grant itself and in the application, some goals were identified for us to obtain during the grant period, and I'm going to speak a little bit about those. Some of the Intercultural Community Center's goals are specifically addressed in the grant funding that we just described, such as the staff support for communication and operations, the development of website and social media communications that will be delivered in both English and Arabic, and the creation of resources and training to be used by lay and clergy leaders about methods of intercultural community leadership and development. And these resources are intended to be available both in person and digitally. There are other goals that are also critical to the development of the Intercultural Community Center and are included in the grant award. The first is to meet and engage the large, diverse community around us. And we hope to do that by engaging and inviting one new person or organization per month to participate in the ICCD, and with a goal of having 40 agencies participating by the end of the grant period in 2025. And also we hope to identify and develop diverse and active leaders for the Intercultural Community Center board and all the work groups. And these leaders would be involved in the community, focused on community needs and resources, are open to listening to and involving diverse community members and groups, and leading the projects of the ICCD. Another goal is to partner to identify, understand, and respond to critical needs in Dearborn. We hope to identify interested people, experts, leaders, financial supporters, and other resources to respond to specific needs in the community, and then invite those entities to participate in project work groups. A goal is to develop 4 project work groups per year, each with leaders, 7 to 10 members, and the potential to educate or serve 100 or more people each year. A third goal is to develop the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn as a sustainable, community-run and supported nonprofit organization. This would involve obtaining project funding from partners, work groups in the wider Dearborn community as the various projects develop and commence. And then hopefully, by the end of that 3 years, an annual operating budget of around $100,000 would be supported by the Dearborn community. As we undertake to address these goals, we need to keep learning and help the Intercultural Community Center to grow and develop. This grant will be successful if the ICCD meets most of the goals and outcomes described here, continues to build relationships, trust, and respect with the diverse people and groups in Dearborn, and helps other intercultural communities experience joy and success. In their work and relationships, Christ Church and Mother of the Savior hope to manifest the light of Christ in all their work with the Intercultural Community Center in Dearborn.
As we look at these goals, there are many opportunities for members of Christ Church and Mother of the Savior to participate in ICCD. The really special thing about working through an Intercultural Community Center is that Christ Church and Mother of the Savior do not have to do all the work or provide all of the resources themselves. Other people in the community want to participate. They also bring resources and the desire to work together. But there are always opportunities for members of Christ Church and Mother of the Savior to get involved, to participate, to lead, to make new relationships with people in the surrounding community, and to work together in education and service projects for the wider community. Your role in the community is growing in partnership with others in the Dearborn area and community. So this slide has some of the examples of opportunities to participate that are already going on and will continue to develop, including community engagement, which is in effect developing the relationships with people involved in the Dearborn community and the surrounding area. Community education and service, including projects that ICCD is already helping to support, such as food insecurity, environmental contamination, education, various events, participation, and support. And leadership and administration of ICCD, including finances, fundraising, website development, and other administration and leadership. Please consider what areas you might like to be involved in and reach out to us and we'll be glad to have you join in. This is a tremendously exciting time for Christ Church, Mother of the Savior, and the larger Dearborn community to develop close partnerships and find new ways to work together.
Thank you, everyone, for participating in this presentation. And so now we're going to open it up for questions that you all might have. And if you are joining us on Facebook Live, if you want to write a comment in a question in the comments, I'm reading the Facebook Live page and I can bring the questions to the group. So any questions, just unmute yourself. Any comments?
As someone who's been on a lot of the meetings, it's really been exciting to see some of the stuff that's going on with it and the connections that we've already made and hopefully making a lot more going forward.
Yeah, I agree, Matt.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary Jo. You can speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I was really impressed by Chris's statistics about the demographics Very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
The team put that together. I can't take any credit, but thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm sure the government had something to do with it, but yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, there are interesting statistics for this community, no doubt. Yeah,
And lots of opportunities.
yeah.
I will just say in my time of being involved in this, I've been maybe surprised or it's just been interesting to learn just how many other individuals and groups are out there in our community that we might not even be aware of. And so many people, I think, working towards some of the same objectives in a lot of different ways. And so I think this could be pretty exciting if we can work to bring more people together and pool our resources.
Yeah. So Kelly's put a couple of links in the chat about the census if you want more information on statistics that Chris brought up.
Yeah, this is Chuck. I was just going to say that it's hard to comment right now because we've laid out the high level goals. Now we just have to figure out where to grab onto each one of those things. And a good part of the task, I think, will involve identifying and utilizing those individuals who are the subject matter experts for each of the areas that you're speaking about, be it training, be it whatever, and having those people help you lay out the objectives for the training, lay out the objectives for the program, and then have people just kind of work the project down from that level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chuck. And we've been blessed to have a number of different people and groups already participating with the task force who bring in a lot of the variation and the diversity that we're seeking, and the expertise and the capacity to do much of the work that we put into the grant as our hopes and dreams. So we've been blessed.
You have a lot of energy.
Yeah, and a lot of energy. but yes, and we also will, Jim and the facilitation team has already talked about the various people we want to reach out to help us as we develop the curriculum. Although I have to say that the facilitation team is already a pretty high level, knowledgeable group of people. I mean, having Jim Gettle on board with us brings a lot of expertise and experience.
And you all already have a lot of experience, more than other churches, with intercultural communities. And one of the reasons that this became so important was that as Christ Church and Mother of the Savior came together, and particularly Terry, but all of us did some work looking at how do we do this, we discovered that there wasn't much out there. There's a lot of pieces and background that was used and put together to do this, and which can be shared. And it's continuing to develop, and it'll continue to develop both out of the opportunities and the challenges that we have working with a diverse group of people in a particular context. But it's so exciting to have Trinity Wall Street say, you're going to be the experts in this, and go with it, and to make this kind of investment in this project.
And I have to say, Halim is really motivated to increase the presence of Arabic congregations, both in the Episcopal Church and the Lutheran Church, and Arabic-speaking clergy. I mean, he's actively nurturing clergy to support congregations in this country, and he's actively talking about it both within the Episcopal Church and the Lutheran Church, the ELCA Church, to try and develop that. And it's making some difference. People are hearing what he's asking for. So.
Arabic is the fourth fastest growing language in the country. And I think another reason that Trinity Wall Street was so interested in it is the three largest metropolitan areas for Arab Americans are Detroit, of course, but also Los Angeles and New York. And there are large populations In other places, they're much more Christian based populations than here. But being able to share these resources in both languages is important.
All right. Well, if there are no more comments or questions at the moment, oh, go ahead, Mary Jo. You have something.
I was just going to say, so one of the big things that this grant is looking for, I guess, are materials to share with other clergy
And lay
and
lay people.
Okay, but you know, across the country or whatever. I mean, that's a must do.
Yes, yes. In fact, when we first wrote the grant, Mary Jo, they came back. We had to write a letter of inquiry. So we wrote the letter of inquiry, and they came back and said, yes, go ahead and write the grant, but we want you to do this and ask for more money. So, and what they wanted us to do was develop the resources for educating lay and ordained people to have these similar partnerships, or have resources to learn how to do this similar partnership as we have done. And so that was a very exciting piece for us to think about, because it's what we love to do. Jim and I love to teach. And so we were really excited about that and kind of intrigued that they asked us to do it. So, yeah. It'll be a fun part of the project that we get to work on.
Be creative.
Yeah.
Creative, yep.
Well, and frankly, as someone who went out looking for resources 3.5 years ago and couldn't find anything, I am really motivated, much as Halim is motivated to support Arabic-speaking clergy, I'm motivated to give people resources to know how to do this effectively and well, based on what I have learned and what we have done for the last 3.5 years.
And just to be recognized by one of the most well-known and visible and long and historic churches in the country. I mean, I just was reminded that Facebook reminded me that I was in New York City 11 years ago for the 4th of July, and Emily and I we actually stopped in at Trinity Wall Street and walked around the graveyard and looked all around, and it's a very interesting place.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. No, we've been quite honored with this grant. Yeah, it's quite an honor.
Yeah, it's a recognition too. And they are looking to develop new leaders for the church who can reach out to surrounding communities and engage them. And that's what this grant is looking for. And they see us as a great example of a way to do that other churches could use.
Oh, is Tim Spanis still involved with the church?
Tim Spanis, yeah, he's now the what do they call him? He's the deacon with the bishop at the cathedral. What do they call it? He's the venerable, so he's the archdeacon. The archdeacon, that's the term I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The archdeacon.
And anyway, Tim used to own a training development company, and he was also for a time, I believe, the acting head of the Department of Instructional Technology at Wayne State University. So I'm not sure if he'd have any ideas or input into something like this or not, but he might be a resource that you can tap.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a terrific reminder. Thank you. I knew that, but I had forgotten it.
Yeah, there's a number of people who are working with the diocese who can do educational pieces that will be good resources for us, as well as Lisa Kimball from VTS and we have lots of resources. So, right. Well, I want to thank Jim and Karen and Chris, who put a fair amount of time into getting this presentation ready, to organizing the content so we could make it as easy to hear and listen to and absorb as possible. It's a lot of content, but hopefully you're able to grasp the main components of it. And of course, you'll hear more about this as we go forward, and we'll probably print a lot of this in the September Courier. And this has also been recorded. So it'll be, we'll send out the YouTube link, and it'll also be on the Facebook page, so you can come back and look at it again if you're interested and want to just check something that you've heard or double check something that you've heard. So it'll be out there for us. So thank you, Karen and Jim and Chris.
Carrie, so when you say Facebook, is there a Facebook for the team, the center? Or
Well,
are you talking
there
about
is one for the
Christ Church?
ICCD, but I recorded this to the Christ Church Facebook page, and then I will share
Okay.
it with, I'll share it on the ICCD page as well. ICCD has a Facebook page. I'll put it there as well.
Okay.
And Aaron will email out the link tomorrow for the YouTube link. So it'll be multiple places. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I look forward to questions and more work as we go down the road.
Thank you all.
Yeah, take good care and have
Thank
a good
you.
rest of the night.
I
Good night.
Good night, everyone.